Hello there, everybody. This is Ryan from Stromboli Games, and here with me today I have the developer of the game Break-In on Steam with me on Skype, and we've got a list of questions that I have pulled from the forums and questions that you guys have been asking and wanting to know about the game. So, um, first things first, how did you get into game design? It's definitely not the easiest thing in the world to do.
It's not the easiest thing to do. I studied a bit while at university. I was doing computer science, which isn't specifically games design. But it was more a hobby thing that I decided to take a bit more seriously towards the end of last year. I decided looking into it a bit more and found that a lot of my skills matched up quite well with what you needed to, understand to make these things happen.
hmm
And it kind of just rolled from there. I had some ideas, I explored them, and we ended up with this.
Alright, that actually sort of answers the next question about having any former schooling. Did you like finish it up, or did you decide that the formal schooling route wasn't really the way
Oh, of
to
course I finished it. I finished
finish it?
it 2 years ago and worked on a bunch of database design and back-end stuff since then.
Alright, so you've had
This stuff's nothing new to me.
okay, so you've had quite a bit of experience
hmm
beforehand. Okay. So for the game itself, how did you come up with the idea for the game?
That's really hard to answer. I don't really remember. I was talking to my girlfriend one night, I think, and I don't know. I think we were just talking about games we'd like to see happen, and I guess I kind of stumbled across this one. It's a game I'd like to play, and that's, I guess, kind of how I came across it. I wish I could go more in detail. Uh, I'm struggling to think how I did come up with it. There was no flash of genius or anything. It was
Just
just an idea that I looked into and took further.
it's definitely interesting. I really haven't come across any games that are quite like it, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun to play.
I'm glad you think so. Again, it's the game I want to make. I enjoy the older, the old Rainbow Six titles and so on, which were really punishing, but a lot of fun as well. That's the kind of thing I want to make. Bit of a bit more interaction between people. That's what I'm aiming for.
All right. So far, how do you think the development has gone, and what has been the biggest hurdle?
Um, Working alone is quite demanding. You can end up doing some really, really long days. Testing is a really, really tough area because you'll always miss something when you're on your own. If you've got a team of people, you can, divide it up and say, you test this, you test this. If you're on your own,
I can
you'll
relate
just
to
play
that.
it and you'll think, it's okay. I think this is fine. And then someone else will play it and you'll realize that you've missed like 18 different things. And it's the hours and the workload that are the most difficult. The rest isn't so bad if you pace it correctly and plan it out. It's pretty manageable.
All right, that actually, again, kind of feeds into the next question. Is it's a very time-consuming process, especially by yourself. How have you managed to fit real life around your development, and how much time overall do you think you spend working on the game so far?
For the last 4 months, it's been absolutely crazy. I was doing like, I guess, waking up at like 8, 9 a.m. and working till 3, 4 a.m. the next morning, with like a few minutes in between. But since then, it's eased off a bit towards the end. You get these with any kind of software you're making. You get these like little crunch periods where you're just going all out to try and get this thing out the door and get it shipped and get a certain feature in that you've been working on, get something ironed out and working properly.
Real life?
Though,
What's that?
well, exactly. That's the way it has been. But it's easing a bit. I'm at a stage now where I can start working on updates, doing normal hours. Like 9 to 5s, perfectly fine with 9 to 5. I think that's like a light workload. I can deal with that just fine.
All right. what kind of plans overall? I know it's quite early, but do you have anything in mind about what you want to be adding to the game in the future?
Well, the big one, I guess, is co-op, some kind of co-op between two players. That would be a really high priority thing I'd like to add, along with the obvious, like the bigger bases. The a higher level of customization is important as well. At the moment, you've got like that checklist, and you'll go down it and say yes or no to a bunch of things. What I want to move towards is more like I've said this before, a grid based solution where you could place stuff exactly where you wanted it. I think that would be the ultimate thing to work towards for a game like this, because then you'd have full control over what you're making.
Yeah, that's actually one of the features that people have been requesting. I've noticed, and something
It's
that
it's it's gonna happen. It's some time away. The grid based thing is 100% planned.
so if you guys are watching this, just know custom base design is coming
Yeah, I'm not gonna set a time frame, and I'm not gonna make a promise on a time, but it's definitely coming.
at some point. Yes,
Hmm.
that's all you really can promise at this point. What else have we got? Let's see. So, there's a couple different questions that people had about what features they would like to see changed. Custom base design was actually on the top of that list, and you already touched on that. Are you planning any kind of aesthetical changes, making things looking a bit more pretty?
Um, you can get a lot of these things in Unity ready made for you. If you have the money to throw down, you can get almost all of these things made for you. That's a great advantage, Unity, by the way. I know some people might see that as cutting corners but if you're one guy and you need a quick solution to make something look much better, it's an obvious thing to take. So I think it's going to look a bit better, well, a lot better, in fact, as I invest more in these, like shader packages and visual packages and so on. It's another thing that's on my list of things to do, but it's quite a low priority for now.
Yeah, just focus more on the actual gameplay itself
Hmm.
before you
Exactly.
try to make
You
it
got to
look
get that
pretty.
right. I mean, that's the foundation.
Hmm.
You can pretty up the rest later on.
Yeah, personally, I can't talk. I'd much rather play a excellent game that doesn't really look all that great than a really pretty game that has total shit for gameplay.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So I read your patch notes for today. It is in the states anyway, where you are. It's the 7th. It's the 6th here.
Yep.
I read your patch notes, and this next one is guard customization, and I see that you've kind of taken a couple steps in that direction.
Yeah, I've made a start on that. Uh, that's something I'd quite like to look at as well. I think I saw the same suggestion. Like having guards you could name and level up and progress with them and so on. That's something I definitely like to look into, but again, that's a long way off. For now, like a small step towards it is this picking your providers thing. I think that's going to add a lot to how different each base is. At the moment, you just have that wall of backup that just runs and runs at you.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, you're going to end up, not knowing what's going to be coming your way. It could be like two guys, or it could be maybe 100 guys. It could be a helicopter. It could be a car. That's what I want to, get towards something crazy or something tiny, and you won't know what's coming. That's what I would really like to do.
Just a bit of a surprise in the
Mm-hmm.
attacks. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. What about guard dogs? That's something that people have been talking about.
I think it's a great idea. It's going to take a bit of work, but again, that's something I'm definitely going to be looking at.
It'd be
I
pretty
mean, you'd be
terrifying, really.
foolish not to. Exactly, yeah. I mean, the barking and the speed they move at, and you can put some nice little gruesome animations in there as well. I think it's a no-brainer.
So in terms of equipment, there isn't a super wide variety. You've got the wire cutters and a couple different things. Are you planning on adding anything else like that in the
Oh,
future?
absolutely. There's going to be a lot more of that. I've got to come up with the ideas for it still. I've got to find out how people are playing the game and how they're getting around certain defenses and what they're doing and what's overpowered, what's underpowered. And you kind of got to go from there, really. like the cameras are in the way. That's something you can address with a piece of equipment, or the waiting around. Maybe you can bring in a piece of equipment for that. But you kind of got to watch how people take on these things and how they play it, how they react to it before you can start coming up with counters to it. And that's the way I see it, at least.
All right, that answers that pretty well. So there's definitely more stuff coming. That's excellent.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
As far as the safe house maps, are you planning on adding like more of them and maybe doing some overhauls of the existing ones?
Oh, of course, of course. I want. Uh, you see, I don't want to commit to a solid figure here because this is what happens, isn't it? People say like, "Oh, I want to see this amount," and then 2 years later, it's like hauled up, and he said this, and there were three less. But I'd like maybe I'd say in the region of 30 to 40 bases. That's what I would like to see. Uh, I think that's a pretty realistic target as well, and they're all going to be so varied because that's what's going to keep the game interesting.
Yeah, just the variation and not knowing
Mm.
what you're gonna get.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good. That's a reasonable number, I'd say. And obviously, they're not going to come all at once if you're watching, so don't be expecting just bam. You wake up one morning and there's like 40 maps for you.
Yeah, an update next week. 45 new maps. Exactly.
Uh, so you talked a little bit about multiplayer in terms of co-op, but is there
hmm
going to be any PvP other than you're attacking someone's base? Like, will they be able to defend their base?
Uh, I'm reluctant to put it in as like a one-on-one shooter. Um, I think that would kind of be downplaying the strengths of this kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if enough people demand it, and it's obviously something. If it's something people want to see, again, you got to look at it. But personally, it's not something I see as a priority to include. If we're talking about PvP, I'd much rather look into like other ways of doing it. Maybe some kind of camera monitoring, trap control, that kind of thing. I think that would be some kind of commander role for the person whose base you're attacking. That's the way I'd sooner look into rather than like a live deathmatch kind of situation.
Huh. And this is just kind of something minor that I just thought of right now, but automated turrets? Question mark.
hmm I think it's a great idea. Turrets, shark tanks. Uh, that's the nice thing about this. You can just put in anything.
Moats filled with piranhas.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And where this is linked to a database, I can have different things show up for different players. So I can put that in just for you.
Awesome. I'm going to be looking for that now.
We'll see. We'll see. Next update.
Alright. And then another really highly requested feature are some kind of multiplayer clans for communities.
Clans, that's quite a big priority. I would like to include such a thing. It's going to take a bit of time to work out the best way to do it, but kind of like factions and being able to, have a group target and sharing out the split of money. I think it's a good thing to look into. But I just got to find the right way to do it and make sure it's balanced. I haven't balanced the foundations of the game yet. It's really unbalanced. The costs are all totally all over the place. So I've got to get this in order before I start looking into like adding new things into the problem. But it's again, it's something that will 90% certainly be coming.
Alright. Now, in terms of the overall Steam community, are you planning on being really mod friendly and kind of like community being able to add content? Or is that something that's not going to happen or will just be a little bit further down the line?
If it will happen, it will be further down the line. I'm not sure of how well Unity supports Workshop. Uh, I don't know. It's something I'd have to look into because I know very little about Steam Workshop. I don't know. I like the idea of it, but practically, I'm not sure it's so suited to this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that pretty much covers everything that I have for you today. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, just in general?
Well, I'd like to thank everyone who joined in so far and who bought the game. I'd like to thank them a lot.
Alright, well, thank you everyone for watching. I hope this answered some of your questions here. If you have any other questions, I'm sure CK will be happy to answer anything you might have, so you can just post on the forums in Steam. And yeah, until next time, this is Ryan from Stromboli Games, signing off.